Hello, everyone. Welcome to webinar number 2 of the implementation course of the 3D DSDApp. So as we promised, now we're going to keep going with the 3D design. On the first webinar, we saw the introduction and how to start by creating the file and how to calibrate the photos in the STL. And today we are going to keep going, finalizing with the smile frame, 3D design, scope tool, and export and save and save the case. Okay, so let me switch to my iPad screen. So we are here exactly on where we stopped on the first webinar. And first thing we're gonna do, as you guys know or have watched the webinar, we're gonna determine the length of the teeth. So we could click here and watch the patient's video if we have on file. So we can decide if we're lengthening the teeth or not. If you're changing or the gum line, anything that we are doing for the case. Also, I will turn the symmetric curve off, and I'm gonna move the sides differently. So I want to follow the lip contour for the incisor line. Now I'm gonna turn symmetric curve on, and I'm gonna adjust the gingival line. I click on the target, I move it up until the position I want. I'm also gonna determine here the length of the teeth. So based on the measurements I added in the app, if it was accurate, this length between these two lines is gonna be the real length. So I can use that as my reference. The gingival line always follows the incisor line. So we need to make sure at some point they would converge. I can do them not symmetrically in both sides if I want. And I can also now work with the width of the teeth. Okay, so if you'd like more information about this, you can all find on the webinar number 2, as I mentioned on webinar number 1. So it will help you with the smile frame. Okay, once I'm happy with the position of the line, again, always go to the face, like we are doing a facially driven smile design. So it's important that we check with the face. Now I'm gonna select a teeth shape that I think is gonna work for the patient. I can keep just moving around and finding the one that I prefer. I think this one works for her. I go in the face, I can check. I can mix the shapes also if I want, and I'm gonna adjust the shapes. So one thing that I want to mention and I want to demonstrate with you in this training is that we don't necessarily need to do always like all teeth, right? For many cases, the patient is looking for only for some teeth, or cannot afford treatment, or the treatment itself, there's only the need for some anterior or even posterior teeth, right? So what we will do in here, I'm going to delete some of the teeth. I'm going to do a design without the molars. So click on the tooth, select, and delete. And I'm also, I think I'm going to do only the 4 anteriors for her. So I can show to you how we can do less planning. Okay, so delete all the teeth that you don't want to plan. If you want to do the whole mouth, of course, you can do all 10 teeth. But for us to do it faster in the training, and then I can explore each one like step by step in how to do, we're going to do only these 4. Okay, so I can change their position if I want, but I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to move forward. So click the arrow forward. And now we get on the 4-view screen. The first thing we do here is that we can zoom. So click and zoom. You can make the photos bigger if you'd like to plan closely. Then we click on the STL. So now we're gonna select a color for this STL because we need a color that is gonna be different than the design is gonna be white. So choose the one you like. I usually like this red a lot, but that's personal. You can do differently in between cases. And now we click on design. Okay. So here we have the 4 views with all the teeth that we have from the smile frame. If we had left all 10, we would have all of them, all of them here to adjust. Okay. So first step is to go to the frontal facial with the smile frame. So remember that I said that the 2D smile frame is our reference for any type of planning in 3D. So what we are going to do is start with there. So looking on the top, you can see you can select the teeth by clicking in anyone there. We can hide the model. We can hide the 3D design. We can group all the teeth. So let's say I want to move all of them buccal. I group them all and I moved them buccal. I can link right and left. So I have the lateral selected. I have right and left on. And I'm going to move buccal. So you can see both sides are moving simultaneously. Okay. So the thing I'm going to do first is to position this design inside of the frame. Okay. So by going on the bottom, I have gingival, incisal, mesial distal, buccal, lingual, and also like the tilt, move the teeth more buccally, lingual, or right or left. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I have my centrals selected. I turned on the right and left, and I'm gonna move them more gingivally because I see that following my smile frame that the teeth were too long. Now I move to the laterals, the same thing. I'm gonna move them a little bit up because following my smile frame, they were too long. I'm gonna unlink right and left, and having the lateral selected, I'm gonna move a little bit more distal. The other side, I'm gonna move a little more buccal, be a little bit distal. So I'll invite you now to play with all of these commands because we need to get used to them, right? And the only way you get used is by playing with it. So try everything, try what everyone does. If you also go in size, at the bottom here, you can make the teeth longer, shorter. You can also make the teeth wider or narrower. And you can play with the whole proportion by clicking on this one at a time. So it moves the whole proportion simultaneously. Okay. So once I think I'm okay, I'm matching the design and the frame I did, I'm going to click on the top again. So can you see all of those arrows like in a square format? I zoom in. Also here at the menu, something I wanted to share with you. If you click on these 3 lines below on the top, so we have the 4 arrows on the top right. Below we have 3 lines. It's a menu. So I can play with the opacity of the 3D model. I can play with the opacity of the design. I can also remove the shapes. I can remove the frame. I can bring her lip over the design. Okay. I can also zoom in. So all of these possibilities that you can do while you are designing. For now, I'm going to leave the frames because they're helpful for me in all the other views. So I'm going to close and move it out back. So now that I'm here, I can see in all the other views, and clearly my angulations are not right. So I'm going to open the occlusal one, and I'm going to work with the angulation of the tooth. So I have the central selected, and I'm going to tilt it buccal. And I'm going to move the position lingual. Same thing to the other central. I'm gonna tilt more buccal, and I'm gonna move with lingual. So I'm following my occlusal line as a reference to determine the position. Now I'm gonna go to the laterals. I'm also gonna move the angulation. I can move buccal and mesially. I'm gonna move lingual and mesial. Okay. So we need to play with these controls to really want to understand what each one does, so you know what you need to move. At first time you do, it seems very complicated. It's gonna take much longer, but once you get used, I promise it's gonna become easier. Okay, so here I start noticing already that I'm having some of the patient existing teeth showing through. Right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm also gonna come here and check so I can clearly see that the central on the left is more buccal than the one on the right. So I'm gonna move the position a little bit more in. I can also play a little bit of the angulation. Okay, I think now I did too much, so I'm gonna move buccal. I go back, I check in all views, and this fourth view, if you open it, you'll see it is a dynamic view. So you can zoom in, make it very close. You can turn and look from occlusal. So that's a view I like to use a lot when I'm done with the basic positioning. Okay, cool. So one thing that is important to show, can you see that my centrals, my design looks smaller than her actual teeth? So probably I can make this teeth bigger. So what I will do is I'm gonna select link right and left, and I'm gonna make those centrals. I'm gonna make with the whole proportion a little bit. Now I'm gonna make them a little bit wider. So it's filling all the embrasures. Okay, now I have a bigger size, right? So I keep on checking from all views in the angulation of teeth, and I can see they're a little bit different. So I'm gonna unlink right and left, and I'm gonna work a little bit with the position. I'm moving a little bit distal, the centrals. They were too close on the midline. I also check the emergency profile. So I can click on the tooth. The tooth that I'm clicked always, it is gray. So turning to the side, I can play with this angulation. And adjust. Same to the other side. I think that's kind of good. I can come and look as I'll be looking from the top, from occlusal. I'm gonna move this a little bit more mesiolingual. Okay, so always go back, take a look. So according to my frame, now it seems that my teeth are a little bit maybe too big. So what I can do, I can maybe make this one move a little bit more mesial. Go back. So I always use the smile frame as a reference for me, for all teeth that I'll be moving. Now I go with this 12 o'clock, take a look at the relationship of this teeth with the line. Now move it back. Something else I can do. So if I look on the right letter central, it seems it is a little bit tilt to like mesial, right? So I'm gonna tilt a little bit distal. I think now the angulation looks slightly better. Can also change the mesial distal. angulation. And I'm working on my design. So I can see the relationship with the patient's teeth with my new design. If I'm maybe moving to buccal. Okay. So moving lingual, mesial. Okay. So you will start noticing that depending on how you move the shapes, you're going to start noticing more areas that the design is showing through. Okay. And that's no problem, because remember, we are first analyzing the right position, like the ideal design. So always go back, take a look from the smile frame, take a look on the occlusal view, take a look at the 12 o'clock, and always come back to the dynamic view. So if we like the position of these teeth for this design, we're going to need to adjust and adapt for the motivational, right? So what we're going to do is, there's a fast way that you can do that. You can group them all and bring all buccal. So automatically you're going to have all of them positioned a little more buccally. Something like that. And I'm going to leave those areas showing through. So some imperfections on the gingival of the right central, or these areas that are showing through, because I want to show to you how we can correct these with the scope tool. Okay. So I'm happy with my design. This is what I wanted to design for this patient. Always keep in mind that if we are doing a mock-up for only 4 teeth, we need to match the color really well, and maybe the perception of the patient is not gonna be that powerful as we do all the teeth. I just wanted to show you less teeth and more detailed, but of course you can do a full mouth very easily. Something else we can do is mix the shapes. So let's say you're in the middle of the 3D design and you see that you maybe want to change just the shape of the laterals. So you click on the teeth that you want to change, and on the right side, you click on those arrows. Then you can select different shapes. Of course, you're going to need to reposition, right? But you also have the possibility to mix the shapes inside of the 3D design. Then we move forward. And now we get on the scope tool, which is our step number 4, if you remember from our sequence. So what we're going to do here is some small adjustments. Just wait, sometimes it takes a little bit to load. Good. So this is also a dynamic view. You can turn around and zoom in or zoom out. We have some options here at the bottom to change the color. So let's say here we have the model. You can change the color depending on how you'd like to visualize. Okay. Also changed a little bit, seems like the texture. Okay, so I want to play with this and see which one you think it works the best for you. but most importantly is how to use these tools, right? So let's start from here, okay? So if I look to this central, right? So I select the tooth. Once it's selected, it's gonna be gray. That I know is the right tooth I have selected. So I'm missing an area on the distal of the design. Right? So there are two ways I can fix that. One way is by using brush. So I have the brush on. I'm going to click on my design and I'm going to build more areas in here. Notice that we have a size of a brush that we can pick, intensity of what we choose, and the opacity of the teeth. So this is very nice for us to see when we are changing the gum line or even the incisal edge, right? Like how much we are changing. We can even see the thickness if you turn and look from the sides. Okay. So what I want to do, this is one way to do. So I can keep going. So see what I just did? Now it seems it means I'm working on the cast, like on the actual model, because the model, it became gray. No problem. You just click in undo and it's going to undo what you did. So you always can come back. So make sure when you use the brush that you have the tooth selected and you go from the tooth to the area that you were adding. You can always go back and forth, but see? Okay. Depending on how much of the intensity we use, we can deform the tooth. So there is also another way that we can do these minor changes. And I'm undoing everything, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in move now. And I'm going to select reduce the size of this brush. So I'm going to select the teeth and I'm going to just drag to the side. Maybe I can do the brush a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to bring to the side. So just drag. So it means that it doesn't distort the polygons. So like the polygons are the 3D objects, right? Like how the 3D image is formed. So it doesn't distort them. Like I would say like the pixels, right? So it's something for you to understand like that. So it doesn't distort. It's just, it moves. So it doesn't add, right? So I think it looks better. So depending on the case, I can do here the same on this lateral. See, I'm not completely covering the gingival line. So I can be move and just reposition. I can also do some changes from like buccal. So let's say I want to bring this a little bit in. I can. Let me select a little bigger size brush and move this all down. See? So you have many possibilities to play with. I also always like to use smooth and come here smoothing the cervical areas to make like a better, nicer transition. You can see the texture of this design is really nice, but when we print, we are looking very close. So when we print, we cannot see these like minor areas seen here from the sides of edge. So this is okay. We don't need to smooth that out. Also here, so let's go to the other side. So here the same. I can click in brush and I can now then turn a negative on. So when I turn negative on, it means I'm going to remove my design or the area I have selected. So as I have the tooth selected and I come here, can you see that I'm removing it? Of course, I've completely exaggerated, but it's for you to see that sometimes it's not that easy to make a slightly change. You can, something like this. You just need to be very gentle and work with intensity. Let me go for a lower intensity and try to remove it here. Okay, but what I'd like to do is my favorite is the move. So I'm gonna reduce the size of the brush and I'm gonna move this a little bit in. I look from all views. Maybe here I did too much. I can bring it up. Then I can go to brush, turn negative off. And if I want, I can bring this a little bit here. undo, undo. My intensity is too high. Okay. Smooth, and I'm gonna smooth this cervical area. Okay, so see, I play with the size of my brush or my selection. Turn around. Okay, now it's come here. Same thing. For this lateral, I can use brush and add in here a little bit. See? Or I could have used move as we just did. Let me check how is the gingival lining here. So the one on the right side, the left side is higher. So that's my decision with the design. I really want to do a gingivectomy there or not. If yes, that's okay. I can even play a little bit with the position. Or I just bring it like down, see? So you can do any type of changes. Also, the same counts for the occlusal surfaces. So here I deleted, of course, the premolars and the molars. But when you are doing a design for a motivational, we need to remove all of the areas in the occlusal that will be interfering with the bite. Right? So what you would do is you would click in brush. I will do in this little area here so you can see. Let me move a little bit more here. So I have selected the two that I want. I'm going to click in brush and negative, and then you can just remove those areas. See? So something like that you would do in all the occlusal areas of the teeth. Oops. Don't forget that you can change the design, but you can also change the STL. So if we are doing a post-treatment, if I want to trim the model, that's something else I can do. Let me demonstrate here in this premolar to you. So if you want to change, you go in brush, negative, and then you can prep areas, can remove, right? You can add, let's see, I'm adding here. See, there is I made a hole in there. So you can change also the STL. But keep in mind that for the motivational purposes, we cannot touch the STL, otherwise the model is not going to fit the patient's mouth. So always keep that in mind, depending on the model you're doing, if you are adjusting the STL or the design. Sometimes we have cases with like diastemas. So the same way that I removed here on the palatal, we can add. So let's say I want to close an area here. You can now come. Oops, my negative was off. I was on. So turn it off, and then you can add. So let's say you want to close like a diastema or something like that. We can always come, select where you want, and then you can add more volume. You can come something here. You can add in here. See? You can play with intensity and all of that. So there are many possibilities that you can use at the sculpt tool. We just need to play with it, try different ones. Some people have preferences. I really like the move. I think it's very helpful to me, and it's not super sensitive when you when you touch. But you need to play with to see. So here, see, you can see the thickness that you have for your design. If you need to bring a little bit more out, so you can analyze how much you are lengthening and all of that. Just move all opacity on. Okay, and we are good to go. Okay, so my design is ready. So I'm going to move forward. And this is the moment that I said that if you want to export or save the case, it's going to count as one of your cases. So if you click in export, it's going to open a window that you can share via email. Remember, these are super heavy 3D files, so it's going to take a little longer to download, to send, or sometimes to move to the next step. So be a little patient. So see here you have a file, like a zip file. You can type here the email that you want to send and then send. Okay. So let me send one email here so you can see how it works. I'm sending to support at DSDApp.com. Any questions that you have related to the app, any technical issues or any questions about the app, always contact support. The emails are checked every hour, so they're gonna get a quick response to you. So when you're clicking send, you can try as an attachment or as a mail drop, and you're gonna have a notification like that email was successfully sent, and okay. So now you export it, right? And you're going to go to your email and you're going to download that zip file, and you're going to have the STL ready to be printed or to be used in any CAD software, right? If you want to save, you move forward, and then you're going to save the case. Done. And I'm going to save my case. I'm going to save on the cloud. So by doing that, it means now that I'm able to open the case again. So in the same way we do for the 2D, we go to My Cases, and you're going to have an entry of a 3D case there, and you can open it. Okay, done. It's going to close the case. So if I want to open and review the case again, I go to Menu, My Cases. And here is the case I just created. I'm going to click in Open. Then the same way we do for a 2D, we go to Timeline, and here we're going to have the 3D Smile design. So I can open this case again. All the files of my case here is also with screenshots during the case that I can click and analyze. Everything exactly the same way that we have for the 2D, we're going to have for the 3D. So you can open the case here and redo the design, save it again. If you want to create another STL, you can always come back and create different STLs. Let me switch to my presentation again. Okay, so just as a recap of everything we saw, first, calibration. We saw in the webinar number, the first one. Smile frame, that's going to help and guide us. If you want to do, you're going to have the option of all teeth there. If you want to do, like me, just some design, like a partial design of like some teeth, you delete them on this stage at the Smile frame. Then we move to the 3D design, where we work on the 4 views, adjusting the shape, like the position of the teeth, the shape, the size. We can also mix the shapes in 3D. So always start with the ideal design, right? So it's going to help you visualizing. Then we move to the scope tool. that can help us to remove some areas or make minor adjustments, remove the occlusal interferences and all of that we need. And then we can export and save the case. So thank you all very much for watching. I really hope this webinar was helpful. This is just the first one. Now with the release, we're organizing much more 3D webinars for January. So stay tuned, also more advanced webinars. If you have any questions related with the app, any technical issues or anything you'd like some help, please email support@digitalsmiledesignApp.com. And I hope to see you all on upcoming trainings. Bye-bye.